All right, hello. So today we're going to be talking about angles. We're going to start kind of at the beginning and just talk about how to name them, what things form angles, and then what our basic angle types are. And then we're going to use that and tie in a little bit of our equation writing and solving skills to find unknown angles. So the first part of this lesson is a bit tricky just because you have to be really specific and detailed when you name an angle. Otherwise, you end up naming something else or it's just a bunch of letters stuck together. So, again, it might be a few, but just be really careful with the details when you're naming stuff. Okay, so parts of an angle. An angle is formed by two rays that have a common endpoint. Okay, the common endpoint is called the vertex, and the rays are called the sides. So let's look at this angle here on the left. This right here is the vertex, point B. So I would name that point B. And the vertex is where the angle changes directions, right? Like it meets in the middle and then it goes off in the other direction. So that means that the rays would be BA. So it starts at B and goes towards A. So we write BA and then we draw a little arrow over the top. Now, I can't call it AB with the arrow because notice the arrow that starts at B and it goes forever towards A. So you have to write the B first because that's where it starts and then forever towards the A. The other side would be starting at B and going towards C. So again, I put an arrow that shows I started at B and then went towards C like that. Okay, so so there's a symbol that we use for an angle, and it looks like this. Okay, it's like kind of like a squished capital L. Um, Angles are typically named using three letters. In this case, because there's only one angle, we could just call it angle B. But let's say there was another angle coming off, and that was D right there. Well, if I called it angle B, it could either be this part of the angle or that part of the angle. There's two options. So we're going to use three letters to name an angle so that we don't get confused. Okay. So the middle letter must always represent the vertex. Okay. So we would call this angle symbol, A, B, C. We could also call it angle CBA. Notice the B's in the middle because that's the vertex. And the way that I named that is I'm saying this, I'm saying start at A, go to B, end at C. So there's my angle. Or I could say start at C, go to B, end at A. You still get the same angle. Angles can be named, like I said earlier, with just one letter if there's only one angle. Okay. When referring to the measure of an angle, so like let's say we're going to say the measure of angle ABC is 60, we have to use a lowercase m. So we would say the measure of angle ABC, like that, that's how we would say it, equals 60 degrees. Okay, so we're going to practice this in just a few minutes. Right now, we're just going to kind of set it up. Okay, now there's different types of angles, and I know that you guys know these. So this is an angle that is less than 90 degrees. This is an acute angle. So acute is less than 90 degrees. Oh, it's so cute. It's nice and little. That's one way people remember it. The next type of angle would be an obtuse angle. I'm actually going to put the name here. And an obtuse angle is more than 90 degrees. With a catch. If it's more than 90 degrees, it has to still be less than 180. Because if it's more than 90, then you end up going past the straight. So that's a different type of angle. We've got an angle that looks like this, where the two rays meet and form this little guy. That's a right angle. I called it this little guy because I didn't want to give it away just yet. And that is equal to 90 degrees. Sorry, that looks kind of like a Q. And then this one's not always thought of as an angle, but it actually is. It looks like a line, but that's actually a straight angle. So sometimes in this lesson, when you see something like that, that would end up being an angle. Sometimes though, it's just a line, but lines have a measure of 180 degrees. So we would say equal to 180 degrees. You know what I just realized? I put a percent sign after that last angle. Weird. Okay, so let's try this. Let's use the naming protocols that we just set up here, okay? So we're gonna use this. We're gonna name the vertex as a point. We're gonna name the rays using the letters in the right order with the arrow over it. We're gonna name angles and we're gonna give their measure, okay? So if you forget how to do it when you do that on your own, check the notes we just took. That's why we took them. Okay, so example number 1 says, name the vertex of the angle. The vertex of the angle is where the angle changes direction, and that is point K. Okay, name the sides. So one of the sides is ray KJ. So we write KJ with an arrow over it. Then the other side is K going towards L. So we write KL with an arrow over it. Okay, give 3 ways to name the angle. So we could just call it angle K since it's all by itself. That's the easiest one. So I would recommend that every time you can. We could call it angle JKL, or we could call it angle LKJ. And we're going to classify it. It is more than 180 degrees, so we would call it obtuse. Okay. So I'd like you to take a minute and you're going to do example number 2 as an on your own. So hit pause, fill in the blanks, and come back and see how you did. All right, so here's what we got. The vertex was R. The sides were RQ with an arrow and RS with an arrow. So they have to have the arrow pointing to the right and they have to be in that order. The 3 ways to name it are angle R, angle QRS, or angle SRQ, and this is a right angle. Okay, cool. So when you get to those problems on the homework, refer back to the sheet if you made some mistakes. Okay, now let's use this information and a little bit of algebra and problem solving and solving equations to find some unknown angle measures. Okay, so number 1, the measure of angle A is 12x minus 5 degrees. If x is 9, find the measure of angle A and then classify the angle. So we're going to take 9 and plug it in for x. So we're going to get 12 times 9 minus 5. Well, 12 times 9 is 108. And 108 minus 5 is 103 degrees. So I'm going to write that the measure of angle A is 103 degrees. So remember, whenever you're talking about the measure, you use the little lowercase m, then the angle symbol, then name the angle, then give the degrees. And because it's more than 90 degrees, this is an obtuse angle. Okay, and those are my 2 answers. Okay, cool. So number 2, the measure of angle H is 14 minus 2x degrees. If x is negative 6, find the measure of angle H, then classify. Okay, so I'm going to plug in my negative 6. So 14 minus 2 times negative 6. Okay, now this is a little tricky right here because it's a minus 2 and a negative 6. So I like to group them together like this. And, oops, that's the wrong blue. And I get 14. A negative 2 times a negative 6 is a positive 12. So that gives me 26. So the measure of angle H is 26 degrees. And this is less than 90. So that's an acute angle. Oh, it's so cute. Okay, so take a minute, hit pause, and try 2 more on your own. Okay, so for on your own number 2, I got that the measure of angle R was 180 degrees. And yes, you need to have the M, the angle measure, and the degrees, and that's a straight angle. For number 3, the measure of angle Y was 90 degrees, and that's a right angle. Okay, cool. So moving on to a little bit more complex. This is as hard as they're going to get for today. So the measure of angle R is 2x minus 3 degrees, and the measure of angle S is x degrees. if the sum addition of the measures of the angles is 72 degrees, find the measure of each angle. Okay, so they tell me that R plus S has to equal 72. Okay, so measure of angle R is 2x minus 3. And the measure of angle S is x. So there's my R, there's my S. And they equal 72. So there's my equation. Now I'm going to combine like terms. So this 2x is going to go together with this positive x to give me 3x minus 3 equals 72. Now I'm going to solve. So I'm going to undo addition and subtraction first by adding 3 to both sides. And I'm going to go over here. 3x equals 75. And now I'm going to undo the division by dividing. And x is 25. Okay, I'm not done though, because it wants me to find the sum of the measure of each angle. Well, if x is 25, I've got to take it and plug it in there. So the measure of angle S is 25 degrees. And then though, I've got to plug it also right here. So I get 2 times 25 minus 3. So 2 times 25 is 50. 50 minus 3 is 47. So the measure of angle R is 47. Okay, guess what? I can tell if I got those right because 25 plus 47 does equal 72. All right, so those are my two answers. Okay, let's try another one. The measure of angle C is 19x minus 3 degrees, and the measure of angle D is 8x plus 10 degrees. If the sum, so we're adding them again, of the measures is 115, find the measure of each angle. Okay, so we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to say that 19x minus 3 plus 8x plus 10 has to equal 115. Okay, let's combine like terms. 19x is going to go with this positive 8x to give me 27x. And the negative 3 plus 10 gives me a positive 7 equals 115. So I'm going to undo the addition by subtracting. Trying to give myself enough room here. I didn't do it. 27x equals 108. And I think that's going to go in 5 times because 20 times 5 is 100. So let's try 27 times 5. No, it's got to go in 4 times. Just kidding. Okay, because 25 times 4. So 4 times. There's my 8. There's my 2, 10, 108. So x is 4. Okay, now though, I got to plug it back in and figure out what it is. So I've got 19 times 4 minus 3. So 20 times 4 is 80, minus 4 is 76, minus 3, 73. So the measure of angle C is 73 degrees. And let's find D. So it's 8 times 4 plus 10. So that's 32 plus 10, 42. So the measure of angle D is 42 degrees. And if I add those together, I get 115. So it's perfect. So those are my answers. All right. So for the on your own, you have a choice. There's a green on your own, and then there's a blue on your own. So take a minute and decide which one you want to do. Okay. You can do them both if you want, not required. But either do the green or do the blue. Okay. And this will maybe give you an idea if you want to do the green or the blue homework. Okay. So hit pause and I will see you in just a second. All right, so here are the answers. It's on a different sheet of paper, but for the green, you had to set it up and solve it the exact same way. And the measure of angle J was 18 degrees, and the measure of angle K was 105. And if you add those up, you get 123. For blue, you had to say that one angle was X and the other angle was 18 more. So you had to say X plus 18. And then when you solve, you got 57 degrees and 39 degrees. Okay, so that's the basics on angles. You're going to name them, you're going to classify them, and then you're going to solve some problems using solving equations and algebra to figure out an unknown and then plug it back in and solve for the angle the angle, the final angle measure. Sorry, I was just looking because I thought maybe I wasn't recording. Anyway, we're good. So nice job, and I'll see you next time.